Greetings and salutations, listener. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined, as always, by the boy.
Hey.
This is not Sing Along with the Rock.
Okay, no.
No, I've seen you do it a million times.
I was about to say, I've been doing that for at least a year.
No, you have. That's actually why I looked over as I was checking. This is not a visual medium. You're seeing the logo for the podcast of the week, which is about the celestial tiefling-ish people. We'll talk about the name in just a second. He was doing a little conductor man hands, like he's my personal Bugs Bunny, and in many ways you are.
What's up, Doc?
Yes, welcome to the Turner's Podcast. We are talking about... so the official pronunciation, at least according to 5e Tools, is Aasimar.
Okay, I can see that. It's 2 A's.
Sure. I've done Aasimar, as in like Aesir, a celestial kind of being.
Yeah.
And I've done Aasimar, as in like that's what it's spelled like.
But with the double A's, you could go That could be a long A.
Yeah, you could go Aasimar. But I'm probably going to go...
I'm probably going to use literally every pronunciation throughout the course of this podcast, and I apologize approximately 0% for that.
Yeah, like we followed the leader on the tiefling thing because it had a really good connotation, and we couldn't argue with it anymore, even though tiefling sounds cooler.
It does still, just FYI.
Like, at worst case scenario, tiefling is you throwing a tie at someone, whereas tiefling is you're from a teeth.
Tiefling! Look at that little tiefling.
Yeah, we're back to talking about Dungeons and Dragons races. And because we're terrible at watching wrestling, you guys are going to get a lot of this shit in the coming months. Also, everything's canceled, so...
Yeah. It's spooky out there. We're just going to talk about D&D stuff, though, because this, of all places, the Two Nerds Podcast is not where you come for depression. There's plenty of that in the rest of the world. Let's have fun talking about D&D.
Yeah, that's why we don't talk about that Batman movie anymore.
Let's talk about D&D.
All right, so we had a semi-format. It's startling to go back not even a year and see how much more refined and dedicated we have become in discussing Dungeons and Dragons stuff. Honestly, even our first couple class podcasts are sort of riffy and fast, and there's not a lot of like in-depth dissection and discussion.
We yada past some stuff. I mean, was it 10,000 hours? It's time in, in the pocket. Just getting used to it.
Like, if y'all don't think...
I used a sports reference.
You did. If y'all don't think we're better at podcasts, go back and listen to that cringy one.
Don't, though. Never listen to the first podcast.
If you do, just don't tell us about it. Don't even comment and subscribe on that video. Do that on this one. And hey, we're all shut indoors, so I've got a Patreon down there.
You know what? I was looking into that. One of the reasons that we're not probably growing a little bit is because the channel's demonetized. The algorithm avoids it.
That makes sense. But that's fine. Y'all are here because y'all are here, and it ain't nothing else.
We really appreciate the ones who are here because we're, as the saying goes, I believe, playing YouTube on hard mode. So all of you are here because you actually like our stuff and like us, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're happy to have all of you. You regulars, you not so regulars, you irregulars, you're my favorites. But anyway, Aasimar.
Aasimar. Aasimar.
Aasimar.
Angel tieflings.
Except not really. I actually sat down and looked at their lore today because I realized...
I didn't, because I wasn't going to use it anyway, so why?
I realized I'd never looked at it before, and they're like, they're G's-I, if I can be quasi-offensive.
You know what that is? I would assume the proper plural of Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
G's-I. Many G's-I came over the hill.
Yeah. They're like...
I got 50 headed G's in a random jump state.
They're like special children born to a family, touched by a celestial, and they hear the voice of these divas in their heads directing them to, do good. Or they can rebel against it and crawl within their own skin at wounds that will not heal.
And get buffs for it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I would just make them angel tieflings. Angel tieflings.
So here's the trick about that.
That seems way too up its own ass for what could be a very simple concept. Like angel tiefling. Now I've brought up the cooler pronunciation, and my brain immediately went back.
I'm so sorry, pal.
But just, as demons occasionally are wont to get busy with immortals, sometimes angels will as well. And thus...
Well, like angels or Jedi, they're not allowed to have sex. And if you do, unless you're Ki-Adi-Mundi, you become a Sith immediately.
There are apparently at least a few Ki-Adi-Mundi angels in any setting I'm DMing. Because that's
we all have the same dad, and he's got a big, tall head.
It's stupid. It's way over complex for what is, at base, a very simple concept.
Sure.
And I argue would be better as the basic concept. What you just said, that's a lot. That's a lot to put on a race. Because that really, I like the, turning into your nature or rebelling against it, giving you different powers. That's really cool. I'd like to do something like that with Tiefling too. That's really cool. But the weird family history and that sort, I don't know. It just seems like a lot to put on a race that really constrains the freedom that the player character could otherwise have there.
It does create a unique situation, though. Well, actually, not really, because it's just basically picking sorcerer as your race.
Yes. And that's what classes are for. I played Divine Soul Sorcerer. I didn't really use much of that part of the lore, but I wouldn't have wanted to double up on it.
I could see why someone would, though. It's good synergy.
And if you like it, I'm not saying your tastes are bad or anything. If someone really wanted to play that version of an Aasimar in my setting, I wouldn't hate on it.
Well, and
it just wouldn't be the default.
Here's the trick for me is I don't disagree with you. It is a little overcomplicated. Complicated might not be the right word. Overwrought, perhaps.
Yeah, overwrought. I feel like is the exact way of phrasing it.
I just listened to our Tiefling podcast again, and I got most of the way through it. For time constraints, I got to record this show, and I don't once mention how I don't really use demons in my games.
Yeah, you basically never do.
Not out of any sort of fuck you. I think they're neat, actually. I like a lot of the Dungeons and Dragons devils and demons, but I don't. They're so high challenge rating to me. Maybe not literally.
Fighting the literal armies of hell feels like it should be important.
Yeah. Not, I know lemures are the lower level of summonable creatures, but it doesn't seem like Jeff the Cultist should be able to just conjure one up at 1/4 challenge rating.
But that's what the challenge rating they are, so...
and that's just me. It just doesn't occur to me. I'm not all right, well, what do we do next year? Oh, yeah, demons. Okay. I think the most demonic thing I've used in any of my games that was an actual combat thing and not an NPC were some character ideas stolen from Dark Souls. And that was less, these are demons, and more, this is some bad shit from another plane. What is a demon?
That's fair. How does this tie back to Aasimar?
Well, so by that same token, I didn't mention that in the Tiefling one, I don't really use Celestials either. Even when I use gods, and I used to, up until my most recent campaign, gods everywhere. It's one of the first things I did when building a world. I don't really establish angels. I don't know the hierarchy in Dungeons and Dragons. I know devas are a thing, and there's guys with horns, and there's not the kind that you have on your head, but you toot toot.
Yeah.
There's the dog ones.
There's the dog ones. There's the ones whose name I always confuse with the Palantir from Lord of the Rings.
I don't really mess with those.
You know what the funny thing is? I use demons and devils a lot in my D&D. They make for great enemies. They make for very classic enemies. And they have interesting abilities, so I use them a lot. I don't use angels. Basically ever. And I'm not trying to be an edgelord. It's just...
easy.
Normally my parties aren't dickheads. And that's the only situation where I feel like you would come into contact with an angel. If you were a humongous dickhead who was trying to fight God. But a good one. A one who's helping people. And you're no, you know what? Fuck you. I feel like that's when you'd end up fighting angels. And most of my parties aren't dickheads, so that just doesn't happen.
Well, even not fighting them, but just as like NPCs, as entities that bear thinking on.
And, I mean, I wouldn't bring them in as, like, unless you literally cast the spell Summon Celestial, I wouldn't bother bringing them in as NPCs on the player's side, barring some very few exceptions, because they're OP as fuck, and it's hard enough to balance high-level D&D. But, like, I have used one Celestial. One very powerful Celestial one time to, I think, pretty good effect. But generally, I just don't. So, I think that maybe is why I just default to Angel Tieflings.
Well, and I mean, like, that makes sense, but I don't think I'd even really do that. Honestly, the miraculous birth of a servitor of the gods is a little more convenient for the settings I brew up, because
And that's
I don't have to think about it.
Wasn't it the background of 4th edition Devas? As like a
No,
playable race?
the 4th edition Devas were like reincarnated and lived many lives or some shit. They were really fucking cool.
But, so, yeah. But, like, you were born to a normal family, but you're a Jesus. There's going to be Alan Rickman swinging around in a few years to sort of give you the what's up about it. I don't know. That could work, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
as like a one-off.
Yeah, you can build a Superman out of that. You can build all kinds of cool shit.
Yeah, like as a one-off, I like it. If I was gonna do it as a race, again, Angel Tieflings, but as like a one-off, you're a unique thing. The backstory works. It just for whatever reason doesn't click as a race for me.
Yeah, I've never really used one, and I've never had any interest in it.
I think it's because it's too important to be a race. It's too. There shouldn't be a herd of Jizai coming across the plane.
Well, and so, to what you said, and if I may have a moment here, this is a very non-traditional race podcast. Go figure, it's the one we come back on. Maybe we'll do another one next week. Lord knows there's not anything else happening. Demons are everywhere. Demons are always trying to fuck shit up. The gods, they're quiet. They're hiding in heaven or wherever else. They're doing shit. They don't need to talk to you. You're doing fine on your own. Unless you get high enough level cleric and go, Dad, I need help.
And then Dad will indeed show up and help.
So in general, that's like, at least around here, the expectation of the trope. You know, evil is everywhere. Good is rare. And busy in its rarity. So like an entire race of angel people, you know, having these celestial beings, period, come down and visit and help or whatever, it just seems wild and foreign.
Throws off the balance.
Yeah. Good is supposed to be, you know, 4th edition had that whole points of light thing.
Good uses the law of conservation of ninjutsu.
Sure.
The fewer servitors of good there are, the more exceptional they are allowed to be thereby against the endless hordes of the gnawing abyss.
Yeah.
If there's a herd of Jizai running, it's syndrome. When everyone's Jesus, no one is.
And at the end of the day, I mean, it's not like their racial bonuses, while good, are any better than most other races.
They're fine. They're absolutely fine. There is one thing that is redundant that bothers the shit out of me about their race mechanically. They have dark vision and the light cantrip. Why? Just fucking why? That is so... I get thematically why it's there. It is so thematically redundant.
Yeah, you're spending power budget on nothing.
It's mechanically redundant. They shouldn't have dark vision. Light fits thematically. Dark vision is there because for someone at Wizards of the Coast, dark vision is for every race except the loser races. So they just add it wherever they can. These guys shouldn't have dark vision. They should have light. They should have the light cantrip because they are the point of light in a vast sea of darkness. But that vast sea of darkness should be threatening to them.
Yeah.
Because they are the champions of the light. They shouldn't be able to see in the fucking... This is just simple, thematic, and mechanical math. Why is that there?
I mean, I would probably homebrew it out just for the power budget. Because, like, actual Aasimar get, like... Or, excuse me, dark vision takes up a lot of power budget. In the diving I've done into what constitutes the D&D power budget, as though there's actually a rubric, and there isn't.
Clearly not.
That dark vision counts for a lot.
Because it's a powerful ability.
Yeah. So a lot of those races that were like, oh yeah, everyone except humans gets dark vision, and then they get very little else. Which, and that's even hyperbolic.
Or they're overloaded like fuck, like a Loxodon or something.
Sure. Well, I mean, Loxodon don't get dark vision, so...
But they eat a bunch of stuff.
They sure do.
But, I don't hate the Aasimar. You could be forgiven for understanding how much I've bagged on them here. I don't hate the concept. I've played with a couple. I've never DM'd one. Just by pure coincidence. But, I've never played one, and I don't know that I would, because they're just not a concept that appeals to me in any real way.
Nothing about it makes me want to play it. Unless somebody had a setting where, like, the angelic choirs were a fixture, and then I could maybe play off of that in some way.
Yeah. Where rebelling, you're not my real dad doesn't work when dad doesn't give a shit about you. Like, he needs to be there for you to go, fuck you, man, at him. So, like, even the rebellious Aasimar don't work so well in settings like we run, where the servants of good are busy.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that necessarily, because then it does become the opposite of the inherent tiefling struggle that we talked about, where tieflings are burdened with this darkness and mistrusted, and everyone expects them to be evil, so they either, as you said, get the chip on their shoulder and go, you want me to be evil? Fine, I'll be evil, or struggle to overcome that, or become...
An interesting way to play an Aasimar might be the reverse. Someone sees an Aasimar and just immediately assumes they're trustworthy.
Sure.
Which allows you to play, play into it and become like the paladin, and be that trustworthy person who you see me, you assume I'm trustworthy, and that trust is rewarded. That faith is rewarded.
Sure. Or it's exploited. There's also, and I don't necessarily recommend this concept because it's a little difficult to juggle in a game where you're supposed to go do stuff.
Okay.
But a fallen Aasimar could be someone who goes through life going, I never asked for this.
I didn't ask to get made.
Well, I didn't ask to get made as a fucking archon of safety and, all that shit. You
declined.
Put so much on me.
There's a lot of pressure, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for character growth in there, but woof. You gotta be careful with that shit.
I do want to talk a little more about mechanics just briefly.
Sure.
Because there's another thing that bothered me, and it's not nearly as much of a problem. Why are the good guy Aasimars the ones who are the weakest? They all have a feature called Radiant Soul. Or Radiant something. Radiant Necrotic Shroud is Fallen Aasimar. Radiant Consumption is Scourge Aasimar. And Radiant Soul is Protector Aasimar. The three different flavors. They all do different stuff. Protectors is just the worst one. Just completely worse than the other two. Just straight up mechanically. And I don't know why they get to suck.
Oh, I don't know about that. Protector's pretty good.
Yeah. Fallen is the same thing, but also with a fear effect.
Oh, okay.
And then Scourge is the same thing, but also with an AoE. All three of them get that. Sorry, we're talking in vagaries. All three get, for 1 minute at 3rd level, you can transform as a bonus action. You deal, once a turn, when you hit with a spell or a melee attack, you deal your level in damage. Radiant if you're one of the other two. Fallen does necrotic. But Fallen Aasimar and Scourge Aasimar get something else to go with that while they're transformed. Fallen Aasimar get a fear effect. Scourge Aasimar get an AoE damage effect at half their level. Radiant Protector gets neither of those for no reason. They don't get anything else for it. They don't get a boost to their healing hands.
They do. They get to fly.
They get to fly?
Yeah.
Did I just miss that?
Yep. Protector Aasimar get a flying speed of 30 feet.
Okay. That's fair. I just completely misread that then. That's fair. I don't mind now.
Hey, and this is a wonderful one of those in-episode important lessons that we sometimes accidentally do, like fucking tool time. Read your shit. Yeah. Because I can tell you, the other night, I sure was taking 10 off of my attack rolls to try to hit a motherfucker with sharpshooter.
But yeah, I was reviewing this right before the podcast, because again, I've never DM'd or played for one of these, so I just had to kind of read up on them. I just completely missed that. The fly speed is entirely fair.
Yeah.
Healing Hands is kind of underwhelming. It's
not. I mean, it's good at first level.
No, it's not.
Is it not?
It's a hit point at first level.
Oh, okay, it's true.
You get a hit point.
Well, when you've got 6 hit points.
This isn't third edition.
You get 1/6 of your hit points back.
This isn't third edition.
It depends on what class you're playing.
And what
an
your
Aasimar
con is.
Barbarian is going to be...
an Aasimar Wizard with a 10 con, yeah, you get 4 hit points.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at first level you have... Well, no, you get 6.
Yeah.
You get 6 hit points at first level. 1 is a lot.
1's a lot.
It's a 6th. But it just doesn't... It starts out low and scales low. Almost, I get why, because it is just a racial thing. Those aren't usually very powerful in the first place.
No,
but
yeah.
like,
It's basically
honestly,
a cantrip version of healing.
You know what I would have done instead? And it's not proper healing, so I understand why they didn't, because it's not a cantrip. You can only cast it once a day.
Well, yeah, true.
I would have given them I would just given them Spare the Dying. That's what that's for.
Sure. Or maybe just a healing word once a day.
Yeah, that's not that bad.
No, that's not that...
At the very least, they get to roll a die, and you know what? It actually falls off a lot harder because at 20th level, that's 20 hit points. That's nothing to a 20th level character, but, it's some. Whereas at 20th level, that's a healing word.
Yeah.
That's garbage. First level healing word is garbage at 20th level. That's an insult to whoever you're healing.
Yeah, I suppose the crux of this is that the stat block of an Aasimar is exactly as niche as they are.
It's a little wonky. It has some things I take issue with, although one of them was literally me just being wrong. I will admit that. They're just a niche race that doesn't jive with me, and I hate that because I like talking about cool stuff on the Tuners podcast. I don't like being negative, but
well, so let's move away from that, okay? Traditionally we talk about what we like, what we dislike. We discuss the race in general. We talk about how we might play that and how we might use it in our campaigns.
Yeah.
So we've kind of touched corners on a lot of that stuff, and we've definitely talked about what we dislike. What do you like about Aasimar?
I like that you could easily use them to create a protagonist. Either a anti-hero or a hero, whichever one you decide to go for. But if you want one of your player characters, and in some campaigns, even with multi-person parties, it is important to have the protagonist. This is pretty much your built-in, ready-to-go protagonist race. They are Jesus.
Yeah, you're not going to find an Aasimar running a fucking, merchandise stand.
No, they clearly have a destiny. They are a player character race. Not a race that a player character can be, a player character race. And I actually kind of like that in a way. Because for the thing I would use it for, it is very good. You?
They look neat.
They do. They look like angels.
Thinking about it, the visual effects when you go, when you activate your radiant whatever, that's cool shit.
Yeah, they get fucking special effects budgets.
Yeah, you could definitely use them to play a Kale from League of Legends kind of character.
Yeah, or Morgana, depending on which kind of Aasimar you tend to choose to be. I suppose
so. That's cool. Their powers aren't bad. I mean, you can concept something around that. It's niche. If you're going to actually make use of it. And I say that, and then there's the joke of, finally I use for my stern cannon. Every fucking race has something that's, oh yeah, I don't really use this. Yeah, I'm a huge Minotaur, and I count as a large-sized creature when carrying things. Who makes you keep track of your carrying capacity? If your DM is abusing you, write it in the comments. If you're abusing your DM, it's not funny, you don't have a whole cart in your inventory.
That's fair. That's a fair trade. I've tried to do that. I'm bad at it. Some people are good at it. I'm not.
Managing food, sure. Managing arrows, I like that shit. Mapping stuff out, fine. Carry weight, get fucked. Because the only thing carry weight is good for, the only thing it's actually good for is that old 2nd edition mindset of, all right, you guys have hit the treasure room, and now you find the vast hordes of treasure. You've got 1,000 gold, and the entire 2nd level party's going, yeah, in copper pieces. Fucking stop it.
It can be used to great effect. Now, I haven't seen it done in D&D, because I don't play with those DMs, but there's a expansion for Fallout New Vegas called Dead Money. And it is, you go into an old world casino, and throughout the whole plot of the thing, it becomes a heist to get into the old vault. The old vault is filled with gold bars. Just, there's like a whole table full, like a little pyramid of gold bars that weigh as much as gold bars. So your character can't take them all and get out of the vault before shit goes south. It can be used to really good effect.
It can be,
but
in a video game.
I would use it to. It could be used to good effect in D&D. I feel
it could, but you better be doing a lot of math beforehand, because nobody wants to figure out on the fly how much the golden head of a dragon weighs.
Well, it wouldn't be so much doing the math for it. It would be, I would use it as a thematic thing more than like. Figure out how many troy ounces you can afford to stuff into your bag. It would be a much more thematic choice.
Right.
But even then, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, you're not even really using carry weight at that point. You're going, look, this is the situation. You are walking out of here with riches. It's not as much as you were told, but it is a reward appropriate to your level.
Or you can take the greedy path and try and bring it all, and shit gets harder.
Yeah, but it's not literally the minutia of, all right, I've got 462 pounds, but I'm large size, so I can carry. Well, my default weight
carries the 3.
Fuck, how much? Okay, I'm gonna eat my food right now, so I don't have to think about that anymore.
You're just gonna neck all the cheese wheels. Skyrim.
Yeah. Anyway. Super far off track on that one. We're not padding at all.
Maybe this is what the race podcasts are now.
Yeah, just off track. I think the next one. Or maybe
this is the thematic mirror to the Tiefling podcast.
Yes.
Which was a garbage fire.
A delightful one. We actually did talk about Tieflings a lot. We've played Tieflings. We've met Tieflings. We've used Tieflings.
This is not a race I've used much.
No, me either.
As much as I like going through these races, I'm going to be honest, for all the stuff that isn't in the PHB, we are probably going to want in the future to pregame a little to determine if we have anything interesting to fucking say.
There's a lot I had already planned on glossing over or grouping together. And then there's a lot that's going to take its own podcast. And I think as a return, I think Aasimar's kind of safe on that one. Because we do have a lot to say. It's just a lot to say about how we don't have much to say. That being said... So let's say I come to you tomorrow and I say, I was wrong. We did the whole podcast. Next campaign, I really want to play an Aasimar.
I would say, wow, that's a real reversal in opinion, White. Are you okay? Are you running a fever?
And I would cough directly on you.
Oh. But
DM my game. It will be the last.
I would try and work with you to determine why, and then play into that as hard as possible.
So, and this is kind of what I'm planning on using, because I do have a player in my next campaign that's going to be playing one of these. This is your race, basically, and you're probably the only one.
Yeah, it's a weird niche enough race that you're probably the only one who's going to touch this, so let's you and I work together and figure out what this race is and how that can best work for your individual character. That's one of the better things about niche races in general, is that it allows you to really like take the brakes off and work directly with a player to customize a race so that it fits what they need for their character fluff-wise the best. Even if that would make it a little weird to play in the future, because no one's fucking gonna. I'm only ever gonna DM one Eric Cochra. Possibly. So
I do kind of want to play an Eric Cochran.
And it'll be him. I knew who it was going to be when I said it. So, like, if anyone ever plays one, we can work together to really make it something that you really fucking enjoy playing.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to play an Aasimar in one of my games, that's what I'd do. I'd try and make it the best version of Aasimar for that player character, for that player. Might make it less good for other players later, but no one else is going to play one, so whatever.
All right, so usually here's where we would say, how would you use this race in your setting? How do you use this race in your setting?
I wouldn't.
But yeah, you wouldn't use it as a race. So let's say for whatever reason you've taken the fancy. I think I want an Aasimar in this campaign as an NPC. How would you employ one?
I would probably not use a Protector Aasimar for a campaign. For the same reason I don't often use Celestials. But I might use a Fallen one as a villain.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really solid, good villain energy in Fallen Aasimar that could be utilized to great effect. The skeletal wing visuals and all that shit, yeah. Just someone, what's the name? The operative, I forget the name of the villain from the movie Serenity. Just someone who intends to make a utopia on Earth and recognizes that to get that done, he's not going to be allowed in. So he does what he has to make that happen. That's the villain I would use as a Fallen Aasimar. That is, he's still an Aasimar. He still intends to bring paradise to the material plane. And he recognizes that some dirty shit has to get done to make that happen. So he's never going to get in. But that doesn't mean everyone else doesn't deserve it. Please note, that's a villain. That's not someone who's correct. But
it would honestly fit in really well with your current campaign that's coming to a close right now. That's
if it
basically
wasn't already coming to a close.
Yeah, it's so mashed full of characters with exactly that kind of mentality. Just would wedge in really well.
If I had already set it up, sure.
Yeah. I think I could use a Protector or a Scourge as an NPC, either in the sense of because they are still people. That's the big thing about Aasimar. That's why they can be fallen, is that they're divinely touched, but they're still humans. So they still have a freedom of choice and free will. They can be bad if they wanna. I could use a Scourge who's taking it too far. You are doing this in the name of good, but what you're doing is not good. Very classic superhero subversion trope.
Yeah.
Or I could use like a Protector or even a Scourge in that sense and have them be a powerful figure, alongside a church that worships this deity. Have them be the Zero, if you're playing Mega Man X. Oh wow, I want to be that. That guy's cool. Someone for like Cleric or a Paladin to look up to and go, man, something.
Like a very high-ranked Paladin. Like the head of an order of Paladins.
Sure.
Who is an Aasimar who... either is a Protector Aasimar, or if another different evil DM takes over the campaign and they fall, becomes a Fallen Aasimar.
I mean, maybe it's just because of the timing that this thought bred itself into my head, but what you could do with an Aasimar is you could have one who is touched with that divine spark and is being used by a military organization to help further their plans. And they're doing good for a while, and this is an NPC, of course. And the player characters come in, and they help out, and they're like, golly gee, this Aasimar's so cool. They got all the cool powers, they're a really good fighter. And then one day you go on a mission, and the Aasimar finds out exactly how much they've been used. And it breaks their whittle head, and they fall. And they burn a whole fucking town down. And that one skeletal wig rises up.
I love it.
So yeah, we managed to come up with some
Latin chanting
fucking ideas out of nowhere. It's not a bad race, and I hate that we have to say that. It's not the best race.
Maybe he only has the one wing.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's a lot you can do with this. I don't think I'd do a lot with it.
No, it's just not my bag. I think a DM, not better, but a DM who is different than me could do a lot with this race.
Well, and if I cared more about the conflict between primordial good and primordial evil, I would have way more of a place for these kind of characters in my games. I just don't.
I care a lot about the conflict between good and evil, but for me, the meat of that conflict has always been good and evil pushing mortals, making it so that the mortals, with their free will, get to be the ones who decide ultimately who wins.
Well,
all that takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing.
Right.
That's the thing that really drives my gears when it comes to the battle of good and evil.
Theoretically speaking, as well. This would be a nice thing. Say you've got a player character who comes in, or a player who comes in, and they're like, I'm just going to play human. And you're like, oh, you really wanted the solid attribute bonuses everywhere? And they're like, no. Oh, well, you just want to be like a common man? Not really. I just couldn't think of anything else, so I'll just be a human. Well, Let me tell you a little bit about Aasimar, because I've got a guy who would make you a champion.
I don't hate that.
Or even later on in levels, say you're playing a cleric to a god, and you know, you get up there, and then you're like, all right, you know, you could take a feat, or you give everybody else in the party something else. Or I can give you this. Your deity has touched you. You are now an Aasimar. You have been marked as worthy in a way that no one else can be. Here's a couple other little features. Take those with you. There you go.
Yeah, like, that works.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think this is a good concept. I think you can dig a lot out of it. Just as a default, Volo's Guide to Monsters, your second big book full of races race. I know because it's got history in Dungeons and Dragons, but I think it worked well as the DM's guide suggestion. Not that the stats were the best there, but
it's a really good concept that I'd have to do a lot of work to utilize, and I'm not super inclined to do so, unfortunately.
Yeah. And you shouldn't have to.
Well, I mean, you certainly don't have to. There's so many races.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that, like, if you're presenting a race, and again, early in the 5th edition development cycle...
You're saying that this should have been something constructed to be more easily used?
Sure. Or like the Devas. They were really cool.
They were really cool, and a much better race.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, being a race.
Yeah, they had really cool abilities and really cool ideas behind them.
I think that's ultimately it. I don't see a village of Aasimar existing.
Right.
I don't see the Aasimar baker and the Aasimar fucking cobbler. It doesn't make any damn sense in my head. So I would have to do a lot of work to integrate them into a setting.
Ironically, I think all followers of Menelaus could theoretically be Aasimar.
Theoretically, yes.
Like, if we had gone back in the beginning and I'd said I wanted to play that instead of a tiefling, that would have made perfect sense.
It would have. It absolutely would have. You're not wrong, but I like that Menelaus doesn't discriminate.
No, yeah, and I think that's important too. I'm not going to get deep into that. Menelaus is just somebody who wants you to be the very best version of you, so...
Whatever that means.
That could have an Aasimar baker.
There are Menelasian bakers who strive to bake the finest bread.
They're in Fantasy Cake Boss. They're doing their thing.
But, yeah, I can't say I like this race. I feel like it is underserved by me. There are some problems with it, but ultimately I feel like I'm the link in the chain that isn't fitting here, not the race itself.
Perhaps. I will definitely say in 5th edition is the most I've seen these characters. I've seen one guy I played with played one of these, I DM'd for someone playing one of these, and I will be DMing for someone again playing one of these. That's it.
That's a lot, comparatively.
And yeah, and for all the time I've been playing D&D and all the little campaigns I've started, this is the first fucking time I've seen these guys. I mean, they existed before, but like as player characters, as things that existed in the world, this is the first time.
Same, really.
So, like, it says something about them being in Volos that brings them to the forefront, and maybe it's something
in the same way putting Dragonborn in the PHB means there's a lot more damn Dragonborn around.
Except when there's not.
I got nothing else. You?
No.
Everything's better when nerds talk about it.